Please, big applauses for Bisera. I don't know about you, but for me, Bisera's music brings me extra inspiration today. The melody resonates even more stronger than the ideas we hear. Effects are mixed, the difference end up, and end result is stronger. How does work in business environment? Let's hear from Gérardine Mahoro.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So hello everyone. I was worried that people will go back home during the break, but I see that the room is still full. So thank you very much. I hope the digestion and everything is going well, and that we'll have same energy thanks to Mike that did a beautiful one-man show here as PMI example of kind of or things we can have. So my name is Gérardine Mahoro. That can be translated as peace. So peace. And come from Rwanda. I was born in Rwanda, raised abroad in different West African countries, few years, and then Europe, and then went back to Africa, and then now I'm in between. And I'm lucky enough to have a job that allows me to really be in between. And work for the African Development Bank. So I manage a fund, the Gonat Fund at the African Development Bank, which is the equivalent of the European Development Bank in Luxembourg. But the headquarters is in Abidjan, and the Gonat Fund is on governing natural resources for enhanced and resilient economy. I do work with 6 fragile African countries on natural resources management, specifically on illicit trade and resources-backed loans. So very, very, very touchy topic nowadays. And doing so, I've been doing that, working for the African Development Bank on different projects since 2012 for 7 years, and then I left working for PwC, PricewaterhouseCoopers in Paris, doing advisory and strategy for Francophone Africa. And I was sent on mission on a few Francophone African countries. And there I just realized how everything looked, I had to adapt all the time within the organization, as a woman, as an African, in every country. So when I received the message from Bulgarian team on this anti-fragility topic, I was like, Mike, I was like, what is this? What does it mean? So, I just Googled the thing. And it was like anti-fragile, okay, you have an intuition like anti-fragile, you can guess, but within a company, an organization, and as a project manager, what does it mean? And I just realized that, okay, anti-fragile is, I read that at the definition, and I felt like maybe I was born anti-fragile. I felt like I'm anti-fragile. I come from a country where we faced big genocide. I mean, this is the biggest crisis the worldwide know about. But before that, we had small crises that took us to the genocide. So that's how, with my family, we've been around the world. We are kind of spread and had to adapt a lot, and ended up with European education, plus education as a family, as a person, but also as a student from college and then university, then went back to Africa and then changed again systems all the time. And then I don't know finally if my career is a choice or if it was kind of logic, I don't know. But, and then this is the definition I found, same he shared, because I like that definition because it is the closest to what I felt when I read about the topic. The kind of call of being conscious of changement, because we all live in an evolution time. Coming from Africa sounds like, when you think about Africa, who have been in Africa? for tourism or work. So few people who had to work in Africa. So hands are being less and less. And who has to work with Africa, even from here? Yeah, so there is big companies here. So international company, even if we don't talk about adaptation, crisis, changing environment in terms of geographics, you can be here, but facing it every day because of being in a big company, because of your collaborators and employees you have that have come from different culture, and this is the world we live in. So I feel like I'm not an exception anymore. When I was a kid and used to change, go from one school to another school, change languages, and you know, I felt alone. But now I travel. This is my first time coming in Bulgaria. I've been to Serbia and Russia before, so I was asking if the culture are similar for me to kind of prepare myself to where am I going. And, and I just realized that the first people, people that took me from airport were speaking in French, in English, in like very fluently. And I just realized that, didn't realize it this week, but the last past year, we all realized that as a European, you all know, if I, seeing the room, I can guess there is a lot of Erasmus in the room. So we all know how to adapt in an European system. But do we know how to work with very different culture that have different standards and even sometimes don't have standards at all? Because really, because you are in the European, maybe I don't know if this is Schengen, but still European regulation, European standards. But when you work with African companies or African institutions, not institutions because they have the standards, but some companies, sometimes they just don't have a standard. So you really have to define everything from scratch and how you're going to work with them, how you're going to talk with them, how do so you just realize that the skills you learn from schools, the technical skills are just not enough. As everyone said here, it's about people. You can have skills if you don't know how to express it, how to adapt, how they will end up being useless, completely useless. And then you get in a place where you need to change consciously, because we all change, whatever we do or wherever we are, change is everywhere. But we're not necessarily conscious of changing or the necessity to change and to really go from the being conscious to taking the decision, as Mike said, and then to maybe have a plan and put it in a project when it comes to talk to people in different languages or different culture, even from Bulgaria. Yesterday I was having conversation with people working a lot with Spanish, with Turkish, with many culture, people like working remote, meaning they are in the home, maybe somewhere in Rwanda or Abidjan or Turkey, working with you here. So you understand that your technical skills won't be enough to deliver your project. Somehow you have to know a bit about the people you're talking with on a daily basis. And I was then thinking about talking about anti-fragility. I know when I have to adapt and how I have to adapt in different environment, but for this audience, maybe this is most of the crises we share as a world. It's a worldwide crisis we faced, pandemic. Now companies are facing changing environment every day. I said I came from Rwanda, and not only Rwanda, but crises like pandemic, like big crises that really push a country, a whole nation, a whole world to change system, going from, within a very short time. Maybe our European generation, even my parent generation, never experienced it before in Europe. But I did like 3 times in my life, like war, genocide, pandemic, and stuff like that. And then I realized that now we all have to face the same thing at the same time. And there's where being an African give me some soft skills I didn't know would be useful in my career, you know? It's like, that's why I said I was maybe born anti-fragile, like how to take your difference and turns it in a skills, and the adaptation and the ability to adapt to different culture, and the ability to see opportunities in crisis. Uh, Being conscious of that is very important, because when you have difficulties in your personal life or with your team, or you have difficulties, so you are really in it, you don't really realize what you are doing. You just know that you have to find a solution because you have no choice. But now we are in an era where we know that we have to find solution, and we have no choice. We have no choice than finding solution. But we can also take the decision that that crisis is not necessary, doesn't have to be necessary a bad thing. 4 years ago, when I was switching from African Development Bank to PwC, I started an entrepreneur journey with this impact Atari, which is focusing on business impact, really like the whole value chain of it, implementing businesses, impact strategy, finding relevant project for them to have relevant disbursement and be actually impactful, and then impact measurement, impact financing, etc., etc. And why I created that company, because working on natural resources management in African country, I used to work with different partners and multi-donors, like big projects, and I realized that big companies they have that obligation to have a budget line for impact, starting from a certain size, but it's not. I mean, it's not their job to make impact projects, you know. So they are just like, we have money and we want disburse, right? So in a system where everything is where you have I mean, when the system is result-oriented and you have redovability, I was looking for the word, redovability, and everything is in the system and in the project nature, it is easy to make partnership and to finance project. But in some developing countries like Africa or South Asia or other places in Europe, that budget will just disappear, you know. It's like they will make partnership on projects where no one is really looking if actually this money is going for impact. What is the project? What is the impact measurement? I saw a project where you had like 30% going in the project and then 70% going for communication and trying to explain that you have been doing something impactful, which was not. Like, the more it's not impactful, the more you will put money in communication. That's how I created Impact Atari Living. Like, being on the ground, I see so many projects looking for money, but they don't know people, they don't have the information, and the big companies are looking for these people, but it's not, it's too much for them to create an internal recruitment to follow the project or to outsource the thing. It became complicated, so companies just, you know, they leave it. So I did Impact Authority to create kind of bridge between companies and impactful project and do project measurement, and then be able to somehow make kind of valorization for the company to benefit from that and to have some, yeah. And the other Act 05 is also based on my experience on promoting investment opportunities of, like, okay, when I travel, I see so many things, and there is a gap. For example, here in Bulgaria, in many areas, I saw people since 3 days talking a lot about IT, but who knows that Rwanda, for example, is a country really based on IT? It's like after the genocide, one of the country's long-term strategy on 20 years was really IT oriented, like starting from childhood, we learn and we are trained in IT. Now it's working so well that we have no enough jobs for our IT generation. So this, for example, is a way of cooperation with Bulgaria. And I'm here, Bulgaria don't know that, and run this company and run these youth looking for job don't know that, and there is probably a way, I mean, I'm sure the country, for example, is giving incentives for people to come in Rwanda and settle there as company or hire people there in certain focus sectors stuff. So Act 05 is doing that, focusing. I created a concept called Visit and Invest In, where we promote, we do focus, country focus and sector focus to show off opportunities, investment opportunities, partnership opportunities, incentives, and the regulation in a very specific country. I don't do all the countries. We have 7 countries now. And this journey, I started 4 years ago, and then the pandemic comes in, and I was like, everyone like, oh, okay. At the beginning, at that time I was in Paris, so in Paris it was very specific. They didn't tell us we will last 1 year. You know, every week we thought it would be the last week, and then we, you know, the lockdown will be finished. I couldn't really plan my businesses, and then it took me a year waiting for the you know, and at that time, I had to think on how, this is where I mean, we were in COVID, so we had to find solution. But in business, as project manager or entrepreneur, for my institution, African Development Bank did like all the institution, they quickly found solution and to create the online way for people to work from home. Since then, I'm working on Africa, but from wherever I want, because they had the means to do it. As a small company, I couldn't, you know, do everything online. I couldn't do that. And then I started focusing on innovation, on opportunity promotion from local opportunity, because I do only promote opportunities in Africa and in other countries, but the opportunity we promote are just African opportunities. And you see how African country, because of always being in a secure environment, in looking for solution. The COVID-19 was not the first pandemic. I was working on natural resources management in Guinea. We had Ebola before, we had many things. So the use and the habit and everything we were promoting in Europe on how to contain the pandemic on a personal and family level, we already had that. And it was very well managed. But at the same time, the risk perception was something very bad for Africa. And being in between Europe and Africa, I could see it. When I'm in Africa, I know I was not more in danger than being in Paris. But when I come to Paris, people are like, what? You were in Rwanda? You come from Ivory Coast? Are you crazy? Oh, people are dying. I'm like, people are dying here. People are dying here most than in Africa from COVID. But this is just about because of risk perception. And the risk perception that comes from our education. It's not our fault, but we have an education. We have we share something in common that we have been learning unconsciously years after year, generation after generation. And this risk perception we can, not risk perception, but the perception we can have on a continent. We have the same on rest of people or religion, different culture, physical differences. And you take that from your education, from what you know, from who you are, to your company, and to your management style, and to your, you know, to everything you do as a manager. And the danger of risk perception when you apply that to a business point of view or a management point of view as project manager is that we all agreed that what matters the most are people. As I said, projects don't do themselves, you know, they don't deliver themselves. You need people. So if you have, I think it's same thing everywhere, like big companies really have so many different employees coming from different culture, and the company that resisted the most in the type of crisis I just shared before are the companies that managed to adapt, and also business people that saw opportunities in crisis. Like, for example, if I take the example, I mean, we have also failures, but this is a very good example of achievement that Rwanda did, which became his now new country strategy for the 25 coming years, innovation in science and health. That came in COVID, meaning how a small country with like, okay, now is ranked like maybe the third or the second cleanest country in the world, because we managed to really be very uh, impactful and very ecological oriented. There is no plastic in the country. You can't get in the country with the plastic. Like, you get to the airport, they took you all the plastic on you, you have to throw it. There is no, so they are oriented on development, and we live with most of the money come from abroad. We live from aid, we live from as many African countries, but the vision was like, you know what, this is COVID-19, COVID, this is why I mix languages, COVID-19, and we have no means to invest in health, but it was an opportunity for Rwanda, because since the achievement of the first country strategy, they were looking for an idea to develop the country, knowing that we have no natural resources. I mean, you have tea and coffee, you have gorillas, you have forests, it's a very hilly country, overpopulated, but no natural resources we can rely on, or make, you know, an industrial farm for exportation or stuff like that. So we knew we will end up being a country of service. And then COVID-19 arrived, and it was an opportunity to say, okay, you know what, we can make from this country a destination for African people in the region to have a good care services, tourism around hospitals and care and IT and innovation. That is the new country strategy. And around that strategy comes up the Rwanda Financial Center. So they are typically taking example from Luxembourg, from small countries that has somehow to develop a very healthy economy around nothing, just services and investing in people. And having a very small group of people that are able to welcome the whole world and to adapt to each person and to deliver a service. And you just realize that all the things you went through before took you there. And it is very, we are not all, I mean, all of us have things in our life that we don't use as soft skills in our job, but we should, because now we all need that to understand our colleagues, to better communicate our project, our vision, etc., etc. This doesn't come from things we learn at school. It is easy for me because I told you about my life, but it can also be easy for you if you take time to see in your personal life, in your passion, in your difficulties, in your families, in everything you went through, and being conscious that difficulties can be soft skills you can bring as something additional into your company, and then maybe not everyone is able to that, depend on maybe someone characters or way of being. And then be an entrepreneur as a project manager. And being an entrepreneur is not something you learn at school. And this is why I think being an African working with or in Africa, or for me, but for you can be working with all Indian people, different enough to learn from them. It is something very valuable for a business. And when you get that conscious, things you had, like the crisis I mentioned before, you can then turn them in opportunities for innovation, for resources optimization. People did that because they had to, but now we know we can. So now we can be conscious that we actually can have something good comes in from a crisis. So during the pandemic, I was talking about churches sentence all the time, like all business are opportunities or something, and then I stopped because it was too political, but it was like honestly, this sentence was like just perfect for the COVID time. People were like, oh, this is the end of the world, but being a French, I mean, being both in Africa and French, I can tell you, I just talked about Rwanda, but on the French side, every day I live the change. Like the country has changed in a way of, in the administrative way. Like everything is online. It has changed my life. Like I had to come back to French to do my whatever administrative things I had to do, to be there physically, and then it's a nightmare. Since COVID, on that side of thing like administrative duties we all have to do for here, for what is impôt? Who knows the word? Huh? No, not impôt, not a little. Impôt is the money you give to the government because you work. Taxes, yes. How can I forget that? Yeah. So, for example, for taxes, for retreat, we are fighting for it now. All those things, like within 1 year, they did something they couldn't done for 20 years. Like people have been asking to digitalize, to do online stuff, to everything. 2020, all was done. One, like bam, was done. So now I can be here, travel, pay my taxes, do my hill stuff, everything, my rent, my everything. Don't have to be in Paris or in Abidjan to do that. That comes from COVID. But at the same time, we were crying, okay, so each situation has different side, like the good and the bad. And now we can conscience the good coming from the bad, from the experience we had from COVID. And I think thanks to my parents, maybe this is something I have been doing without knowing it since the beginning. Like I have to make new friends, Each age has his own challenges, I had to make new friends, I had to learn from a new languages, or maybe the mathematics at school here, it's done differently than what different methodologies, different stuff. You don't realize that you are just learning how to learn, you are learning how to talk to people, you are learning how to make friends, how to network, how to get an evolution in your career. And without all these challenges we have in life, we can't do that. And I think as Africa maybe is the most messy country in the world, maybe it's the best place to learn this, And working with African system, being conscious of that, you don't wait to go back to Bulgaria to think about what you learn. Be conscious when you are with different people, and then look for what you can learn from them. And how is that leveraging your life, your job, your business. So, and then this is what I always say, that Africa is more an opportunity than a risk. Because it's like this way of seeing life, un verre à moitié vide ou un verre à moitié plein. It's like empty glasses or half full glasses stuff, we all know that. It's like Africa, you can complain like, oh, there is nothing. We're not all entrepreneurs, right? Not everyone is born to be an entrepreneur. I'm still learning myself. But you can complain like, oh, there is nothing, the transportation, the food, whatever meet your standards, because this is for you, like for people on the ground, maybe it's perfect, but for you, you can complain. And then, oh, I don't like this place because of this, but you can also see an opportunity to actually make a business in this gap you identified. So it is always about how our ability to take a challenge from different angles. And I think within crisis, within fragile system, changing environment, it forces us not to stay in a comfort zone. Where when you go out from your comfort zone, whether you're worried, I mean, comfort zone is not at work. Comfort zone is also when you meet someone different. You meet someone different. Me, I'm curious, so I don't. I don't remember someone you. We were talking and he says, "I don't want to be rude, but where do you come from?" Because nowadays, when you ask someone where they come from, especially your black people, you never know. You know, can end up in a hashtag. You don't know. But me, I'm just, or can I touch your hair? Or can like when you know how to, yeah. So differences and differences. I mean, comfort zone is not only about our work, our job is each time we see something different, a different environment, different colleague, a different person, you then start being worried like, "Oh, what can I say, what I can't say, what, etc., etc." You get uncomfortable and then you just leave it, you don't do nothing. Or you do, but in a bad way. And I think when I think the mindset changed everything. The same question could have been rude from a different person, depending on how you behave, you know? And this is very important as a project manager. You go to your N plus 1, N plus 2, you know, losing my English. You go to your colleagues or to your boss, you can say there's something and have completely different result just because of your mindset and the way you see the person pushes you to react or to have non-verbal behave that you're not even conscious just because you're not opening your mindset is not open enough to understand that your education and yourself, this is only you. Like, this applies to you. When you go to someone else, to different environment, you have to come as a virgin, if I may say. Like, you don't know what will come from the other person. So any question is welcome as soon as it's asked in a certain way. So usually this is a master class with concrete examples, but as a keynote, we don't have time to go deep and have examples, not technical, but real example of project management issues you can resolve with the appropriation of this anti-fragility concept. Anti-fragility concept. So I will just end in saying that in everything we do, always the context is the most important thing, because something you can do with me here, you can't apply it same way somewhere else with someone else. And I think as project managers, this is the most important things to keep in mind to achieve the same vision, but with different people, different culture, maybe different places. So thank you very much. Thank you.